The night sky burned with fire as the giant spaceship broke apart above the alien world. Metal pieces rained down like falling stars, lighting the sky in a storm of sparks. The crash echoed across the barren land, shaking the mountains and tearing open the ground. Michael, a human engineer, opened his eyes slowly. He could feel sharp pain in his chest and blood on his lips. He lay among broken steel, wires sparking around him. The world smelled of smoke and burning metal. His head spun. But he knew one truth: he was alive around him. The remains of the starship spread across the valley. The great vessel that once carried hundreds of people was now a graveyard of silence. Michael tried to stand, his legs shaking, but the ground tilted under him. Strange purple sand covered the land, glowing faintly under the twin moons. It was like waking inside a dream, more a nightmare. He called out, his voice weak. "Hello, anyone alive?" Only the wind answered, carrying an alien whisper. Michael's heart pounded. He was a loner, so he thought. A sound came from the wreckage, not metal, not fire, but something alive. He turned quickly, his breath caught in his throat. From the smoke, a figure walked slowly forward. It was tall, thin yet strong, with skin glowing pale silver under the moons. Her eyes were large, dark, and full of strange fire. A female alien, wounded but standing with dignity. For a long moment, they only stared at each other. Michael's hands shook. Reaching for a broken metal rod as a weapon, the alien tilted her head, her sharp features unreadable. She clutched her arm, bleeding a thick blue liquid. But her gaze never left him. The silence between them was heavy. Like the air before a storm, Michael raised his hand, showing he was not attacking. Slowly, carefully, he dropped the rod to the ground. The alien's eyes narrowed, and she gave a low sound, half warning, half question. They could not speak the same words, but the message was clear. She did not trust him, and he did not trust her. Yet they both understood one thing: this planet was not safe. A distant roar broke the silence. It was deep, shaking the rocks. Something large was moving in the valley. Michael felt cold run down his spine. The alien also froze, her eyes flashing with fear for the first time. She looked at him not as an enemy, but as another survivor. Michael coughed, his voice rough. He pointed to the broken wreckage, and then to the mountains far away. "We need to move," he said, though he knew she could not understand. But she did not need words. Her face hardened, and she nodded once. They began to walk away from the burning wreck. The ground crunched under their boots and bare feet. The air was heavy with strange energy. Purple plants with glowing veins bent toward them, as if watching. Every step felt like crossing into the unknown. Michael's mind raced. He was an engineer, trained to fix machines. But here, on this alien world, with a stranger by his side, he had no plan. He looked at her again, her silver skin reflecting moonlight. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Alien, yes, but also wounded, also fighting to live, and maybe, just maybe, also afraid. They reached a cliff and looked down into the valley. The land was alive with strange lights. Rivers of glowing liquid flowing like fire through the darkness. In the distance, shadows moved, creatures tall as trees. Walking slowly across the horizon, Michael's heart pounded. This was no safe place, no home. This was a planet that wanted them dead. Suddenly, the alien stumbled, her leg weak from her wound. Michael caught her before she fell. She flinched at his touch, her eyes wide with warning. But when he let go, she leaned slightly on him. For the first time, she allowed his help. It was a small sign of trust, but trust born from necessity, behind them. The wreckage of their ship exploded in flames. The night lit up with fire once more. The sound rolled across the land like thunder. Michael looked back at the burning ruins. He knew the truth: no rescue would come. No signal would reach Earth from this cursed place. The only chance was survival. And survival meant staying alive together. As they moved into the alien wilderness, the wind carried a sound. A low growl. Closer this time, the alien female stopped. Her eyes glowing faintly as she stared into the darkness. Michael tightened his fists, though he had no weapon. The growl grew louder, joined by many more. Shapes moved between the glowing plants, dozens of glowing eyes watching them from the shadows. Michael swallowed hard. The alien raised her hand, a faint light glowing in her palm. Together, they faced the darkness, and in that moment, Michael knew one thing for certain. The crash was not the end. It was only the beginning. The night pressed heavy around them. The glowing eyes in the darkness did not blink. Dozens of shapes shifted between the tall alien plants, circling slowly. Michael felt his heart hammer in his chest. His breath was fast, but he forced himself. To stand tall, the female alien beside him raised her glowing hand, light spilling across the ground. The creatures hissed at the brightness. Retreating for a moment, but not leaving, Michael whispered to himself, "They're waiting." Even if she could not understand his words. The alien woman seemed to know the same truth. The predators were testing them, waiting for weakness. Hunting like shadows in the night, Michael looked around, searching the wreckage for anything useful. His eyes fell on a broken piece of metal. Sharp and strong, he picked it up quickly, holding it like a blade. The alien's gaze flicked to him. Judging, then back to the circling monsters, she did not stop him. She too knew they needed to fight. The first creature leaped forward. Its body was sleek, like a giant wolf made of black stone. Its eyes burned with yellow fire. Michael swung the metal shard with all his strength, sparks flying as it struck the beast's hard skin. The creature screamed and stumbled back, its cry echoing through the valley. But three more stepped out of the shadows, growling low before they attacked. The alien moved. From her wrist, she pulled a small device, half broken. Sparking with blue energy, she pressed it, and a bolt of light shot out, striking one creature in the chest. It collapsed instantly, smoke rising from its body. The other predators froze, staring at this strange weapon. For a moment, silence returned, but then they growled louder, their anger filling the night. Michael stepped back, sweat dripping from his forehead. He glanced at her device. It worked, but only once. The alien frowned, shaking the broken weapon as if begging it to respond. Sparks flew, but no light came. Michael realized it was damaged. One shot left, maybe two, but no more. The creatures drew closer, their eyes glowing brighter. Michael's mind raced. He was an engineer, not a soldier. But machines and traps, those he understood. He dropped the shard of metal and dug through the wreckage beside him. His hands pulled out wires, broken panels, and a shattered power cell. His fingers moved fast, connecting pieces by instinct. The alien stared at him with suspicion, not knowing what he was doing. But when sparks lit the small device in his hands, her eyes widened in surprise. Michael threw the makeshift device into the shadows. It exploded with a burst of light and noise. The predators yelped, stumbling back, confused and blinded. Michael grabbed the alien's arm, pulling her toward the cliffs. She hesitated for only a moment, then followed. Together, they ran, their shadows stretching under the twin moons. The creatures did not chase, not immediately. The blast had scared them. But only for a short time. Michael knew they would return. Every step he took on the glowing sand reminded him that this planet was not home. It was a battlefield, and they were prey. At last they reached a hollow between two cliffs, safe for the moment. Michael collapsed to the ground, breathing hard. The alien stood above him, her silver skin shining with sweat. Her dark eyes studied him carefully, as if weighing his worth. Then, slowly, she knelt beside him. She touched her chest, then pointed at him. and spoke a single word. Lyra. Her voice was low, musical, but strong. It was her name. Michael blinked in surprise, then pressed his hand against his chest. "Michael," he said, his voice shaking, her eyes narrowed, repeating softly, "Me." Chael. For the first time, her face softened. Not a smile, but something close. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the distant growls fading into the night. The alien world around them hummed with strange life. The plants shifted, as if breathing. The air tasted of metal and storm. Michael knew they could not stay in one place. He pointed at the cliffs, then mimed climbing. Lyra tilted her head, then gave a small nod, even without words. They were beginning to understand each other. Michael studied her broken device. The energy weapon was cracked, its power source leaking blue light. He pointed at it, then at himself, showing he could fix it. Lyra hesitated, then handed it to him carefully. It was a moment of trust, small but important. He turned it over in his hands, analyzing its design. The technology was beyond anything he had seen. But broken machines were all the same. They wanted to work, if someone gave them a chance. As he worked, Lyra kept watch, her sharp eyes scanning the night every now and then. Her gaze softened when she looked at him. She had fought to survive alone before. Now, for the first time, she was not alone. A distant rumble shook the ground. Not a predator this time, but something larger. The earth itself seemed to groan. The two survivors looked at each other. They had no language, no shared past, no reason to trust, but survival had tied them together. Human and alien, strangers yet allies, and the planet around them promised one thing. The real danger had only just begun. The alien dawn rose slowly, painting the sky in colors no human eye had ever seen. Shades of green and silver swirled together, broken by flashes of deep red light. Two suns climbed above the horizon, their heat pressing against the broken land. Michael opened his tired eyes, blinking at the strange world around him. He had slept only in moments, his back against cold stone. Beside him, Lyra stood silent, watching the horizon with her dark, unblinking eyes. The world looked alive in ways he could not explain. Tall plants with crystal leaves reached into the sky, their edges glowing softly. The ground pulsed under his boots, like a faint heartbeat running through the earth. Rivers of silver liquid flowed across the valley below, steaming as they twisted and turned. Michael stared in disbelief. It was beautiful, but it was also terrifying everywhere he looked. The land whispered danger. Lyra turned to him, speaking words he did not understand. But her gesture was clear. She pointed to the valley, then shook her head sharply. Her eyes were serious, warning him. Whatever lay down there, it was death. Michael stood, brushing dust from his torn uniform. He pointed instead to the high cliffs. If they reached the top, they could see farther, maybe even find a safer path. Lyra hesitated, then nodded without another word. They began to climb. The rocks were sharp, cutting Michael's hands as he pulled himself upward. Lyra moved with strange grace, her long limbs finding easy holds. She looked back often, waiting for him, though she never said a word when he slipped once. She caught his wrist with surprising strength. For a moment, their eyes locked. She did not let go until he was steady again, a silent reminder that survival was no longer a task for one. At the top, the view stole Michael's breath. The land stretched far, endless, mountains curved like giant teeth, cutting the sky in jagged lines. Forests of glowing trees spread across the horizon, and beyond them, in the far distance, stood a black spire rising from the ground. It pierced the clouds like a spear, its surface shining with unnatural light. Michael pointed to it, curiosity burning in his chest. Lyra's face darkened. She shook her head slowly, her expression filled with fear. Whatever that tower was, She did not want to go near it. Before Michael could ask, the ground trembled beneath them. A low rumble rolled across the land. The silver rivers below began to boil, rising in waves. From the depths, something enormous moved. A shadow stretching wider than the valley itself. Michael's heart froze. The creature was too far to see clearly, but its size was beyond reason, even from miles away. The air vibrated with its presence. Lyra grabbed his arm, pulling him back. Her eyes told him everything. If they stayed, they would die. They descended the cliffs quickly. Keeping close to the rocks, every sound of the world seemed louder now. The crack of stone, the hiss of steam, the distant cry of unseen beasts. Michael's nerves burned like fire. He knew Earth had no training for this kind of survival. Machines, wires, agencies, but alien gods that walked like mountains never. By midday, the heat grew unbearable. Michael's lips cracked thirst, burning his throat. Lyra handed him a small container, glowing faint blue liquid inside. He hesitated, but her eyes urged him. He drank slowly, the taste sharp like metal. But relief spread through his body almost instantly. His strength returned. Lyra nodded once, then drank from the same container. Michael realized she was sharing her survival with him. It was more than kindness, was trust. As the suns sank lower, they found shelter in a cave. The air inside was cool, damp, filled with faint echoes. Strange symbols marked the walls, carved deep into the stone. Michael traced one with his hand. Glowed faintly under his touch. Lyra stiffened, her body tense. She spoke quickly, her words sharp, pulling him away. Her face showed warning. This place was not just a kevet. Was sacred or cursed. That night, they sat in silence. Michael worked with broken ship parts, trying to repair Lyra's weapon. His hands steady, even as his mind spun with questions. Why was she here, on this planet, alone? Was she an enemy, or just as lost as he was? He had no answers, but when he glanced at her, watching the cave entrance like a guard, he felt safer. It was strange, but true. Outside, the alien forest glowed in shifting colors. The shadows of huge creatures moved among the trees, their footsteps shaking the earth. Michael lay awake, listening. Each sound reminded him how far from Earth he was, how fragile his life had become, but also how strange fate was. He, a human engineer, and she, an alien warrior. Now forced together, not enemies, not friends, not yet, but two survivors on a world that wanted to kill them, as sleep finally took him. The last thing Michael saw was Lyra's silhouette against the alien glow. Silent, strong, and unyielding. And somewhere deep inside, he wondered, was she his only hope to survive? Or was she another mystery of this strange world waiting to be revealed? The cave was dark and quiet, but the silence did not last. A low rumble echoed through the stone walls. Shaking dust from the ceiling, Michael opened his eyes, his heart racing. Lyra was already awake, crouched near the entrance, her sharp eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She raised a hand, signaling him to stay low. Something was moving outside, something heavy. Michael crawled closer, careful not to make a sound from the shadows of the alien forest. Massive shapes shifted the ground, shook with each step. Then came the growl, a deep, bone-shaking sound that made his chest tighten. The predators from the night before had returned. And this time, they were not alone. 3 of them prowled at the cave entrance. Their bodies black as stone, their eyes glowing yellow. They sniffed the air, their growls echoing like thunder. Michael's grip tightened on the broken weapon he had repaired during the night. It was crude, a metal rod reinforced with wires and sharp edges. Beside him, Lyra held her damaged energy device. Faint blue sparks jumping from its core. It might fire once, maybe twice, but no more. The predators stepped closer, claws scraping. Against the stone, Michael's breath caught in his throat. He knew if they entered the cave, there would be no escape. Lyra glanced at him, her expression calm but fierce. She spoke a single word he did not know, but her eyes told him everything. Fight. The first beast lunged, its jaws snapping. Lyra moved fast. Rolling to the side, she raised her weapon and fired. A beam of blue light cut through the darkness, striking the beast in the chest. It screamed, collapsing in smoke and sparks. The cave lit up for only a moment, then darkness returned to more. Predators rushed forward. Michael swung his makeshift weapon. Metal clashing against thick hide, pain shot through his arms from the impact. The beast snarled and knocked him back against the wall. His chest burned, but he forced himself up. He jabbed the weapon again, this time striking its eye. The creature howled, stumbling back, its blood glowing bright yellow. Lyra leaped forward with inhuman speed. She grabbed Michael's weapon, spinning it in her hands like a blade, with one swift motion. She drove it deep into the creature's neck. It collapsed in a heap, shaking the ground. Her strength was terrifying, but in that moment, she was his ally. The last predator circled them, growling low, its eyes locked on Michael. Sensing weakness, Michael's legs trembled, sweat pouring down his face. He had never fought like this before, never felt death so close. The beast charged, faster than he could react. Michael raised his arms, bracing for impact, but Lyra moved first. She pushed him aside, taking the full force of the strike. The creature slammed her into the cave. Wall claws tearing into her arm, her cry filled the air, sharp and painful. Michael's chest tightened. She was going to die. Without thinking, he grabbed the broken power cell from his pack. Wires sparked wildly in his hands. He shoved it into the beast's mouth as it roared. A flash of light erupted, the explosion shaking the cave. The creature's head shattered. In fire and smoke, its body collapsing in silence. Michael lay on the ground, his ears ringing. Lyra pulled herself up, blood dripping from her wound. Her breathing was heavy, but her eyes still burned with fire. She looked at him, human, fragile, but alive, and for the first time. She gave a short nod of respect. The cave smelled of smoke and burned flesh. Michael sat against the wall, his chest aching. He glanced at her wound. Thick blue blood running down her silver skin. She tried to stand tall, but her body swayed. Michael tore a strip of cloth from his uniform and stepped closer. Lyra stiffened, her hand twitching toward her weapon, but he held up the cloth, showing no harm, slowly, carefully. He wrapped the fabric around her arm, tying it tight. She winced. Her jaw clenched, but did not stop him. When he finished, their eyes met, for a long moment. Silence filled the cave. Two strangers, enemies by nature, now bound by survival. Michael whispered, "We fight together." She tilted her head, repeating softly, "Together." The word was broken, but clear, as the night faded into dawn. Michael repaired the weapon again. He worked carefully. Using pieces from the wreckage they had carried, Lyra sat nearby, watching him. Her eyes sharp but softer now. She no longer looked at him like a threat. Instead, she studied him like a puzzle, perhaps even like an equal. Outside, the alien world stirred awake. Strange calls echoed through the forest, and the rivers of silver light glowed brighter. But Michael felt different now. Fear was still there, but so was something else. He had fought and survived, and beside him, the alien warrior had bled and survived too. They were no longer just strangers. They were allies, forged in battle, but survival was never simple. As Michael fixed the last piece of the weapon, the ground trembled again, far in the distance. The black spire rose into the sky, glowing faintly with power. And from its direction came a sound, a deep, rolling roar that shook the very air. Michael and Lyra locked eyes. The predators had been only the beginning. Something far greater was coming. The suns dipped low over the alien horizon, casting the world in deep shadows. Michael and Lyra sat near a small fire made from strange glowing wood. The flames did not crackle like earth fire. Instead, they hummed softly, filling the air with a low vibration. Michael stared into it, his mind heavy with questions. Why had this alien been on the same ship? Why had their paths crossed on this cursed planet? And what secrets did she carry in her sharp, unreadable eyes? Lyra sat across from him, silent as always. Her wound was wrapped. Her breathing steadier now, but she was not resting. She worked with her device, turning its broken pieces over in her hands. Her long fingers moved with skill. Like someone who had done this 1,000 times, Michael watched. Recognizing her frustration, he knew that look. The look of an engineer, a fighter, someone who could not give up. Finally, she glanced at him, then at the scattered parts of the shipwreck he had gathered. She pointed at his hands, then at her device. The message was clear: help me. Michael took it gently, studying its design. Alien writing glowed faintly across the metal, strange and beautiful. The energy core pulsed weakly. Near death, he began to work, twisting wires, fusing metal. His hands moved with purpose, his mind falling into the familiar rhythm of repair. Lyra watched closely, her eyes narrowing in concentration. When sparks jumped, she leaned forward, as if holding her breath. Finally, the device gave a sharp hum. Blue light flickering alive. Michael let out a long breath. It wasn't fully repaired, but it would work again. Lyra's lips parted slightly, a sign of surprise, maybe even respect. She whispered a word, soft, almost like thanks. Then she raised the device and pressed a hidden switch. A projection filled the air. Light burst upward, forming a map of stars, spinning galaxies, and burning systems. Michael's eyes widened, his heart pounding. It was not just a weapon, it was a star map, and in its center, glowing faintly, was Earth. Michael stepped closer, his hands shaking. The distance was endless. Millions of light years stretched between him and his home. For the first time, the weight of their situation pressed fully onto him. He was not just stranded, he was lost beyond all measure. Lyra touched the map, zooming in with graceful movements. She pointed to a cluster of red-marked stars. Her face grew hard, her jaw tight. She spoke quickly in her language, her voice sharp like a blade. Michael could not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. War. Her people were at war, and this planet, this place where they had crashed, was not random. It was connected. Lyra knelt and drew into the dirt with a stone. First, she sketched the black spire, tall and sharp. Then she drew symbols around it, triangles, circles, all burning with her urgency. Her eyes locked with Michael's as she tapped the drawing. Again and again, her message was clear. This world held something important, something hidden and something dangerous. Michael's stomach tightened. The black spire, the endless growls of predators, the strange glowing caves. It was no accident. They were not just stranded on a strange planet. They were standing on a battlefield, one far older than them both. The night stretched long, filled with silence, but Michael could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, the star map returned. Earth, so close in light, yet so far in reach, and Lyra, her face carved with shadows, staring into the fire. She was hiding more. He could feel it. Secrets heavy enough to crush her, and maybe crush him too. The next morning, the air carried a strange energy. The ground hummed under their feet as they walked. Lyra led the way, her steps faster now, her eyes sharper. Michael followed, carrying the half-repaired device strapped to his side. He glanced often at her. wondering who she truly was, not just a survivor. Not just a warrior, but something more. Her mission was not survival. It was something greater. By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking a wide plain. In the distance, smoke curled upward. Black against the twin suns, wreckage lay scattered ships. Not human, not hers either. The field was filled with twisted machines, rusted weapons, and bones glowing faint blue. Michael froze. It was a graveyard, a battlefield, and it was ancient. Lyra knelt, picking up a broken blade, etched with the same symbols as her map. Her face darkened, her eyes heavy with memory. She turned to Michael and spoke slowly. She pressed her hand against her chest. Then to the blade, then to the black spire in the distance. Her message was clear. Her people had fought here before. And whatever war had begun had not ended. Michael felt the air grow colder. Though the sun still burned above, this planet was not only dangerous, it was cursed with history. A place where entire armies had come and died, and now he and Lyra were trapped inside its story as the wind howled. Through the valley, Michael whispered to himself, "We're not alone." Lyra's sharp gaze met his, and for once, she did not hide the truth. She gave a single nod, slow and heavy. Not alone, never alone. And in that moment, Michael knew the crash had been fate. But survival was no longer the only goal. They were caught in something far bigger. Something written in the stars long before they ever arrived. The alien winds grew stronger as they left the battlefield behind. Dust swirled in the air, carrying the scent of smoke and old death. Michael walked in silence, his eyes locked on the black spire in the distance. It rose higher with every step. Sharp as a blade against the twin suns, Lyra moved ahead of him, her steps fast, her face hard. She knew where she was going. Michael could tell, though she never said a word. By midday, clouds gathered above, dark and heavy. The first drops of rain fell not water, but glowing liquid that hissed when it touched the ground. Michael covered his head, his uniform burning in small spots where the drops landed. Lyra pulled him under the curve of a broken archway, part of some ruined structure. Her eyes scanned the horizon. Wary, this rain was not natural. It was alive when the storm faded. They stepped into the ruins fully. Massive stone towers lay broken, half buried under purple sand. Carvings covered the walls, glowing faint blue. Michael touched them gently. They pulsed under his fingers, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Lyra turned to him quickly, shaking her head, her voice sharp, warning him not to touch again, but the symbol stayed in his mind, burning like fire. At the center of the ruins stood a broken machine, half buried, taller than both of them. Its surface glowed faintly with veins of silver. Michael's heart jumped. It was old, yes, but it was a machine. And machines could be repaired. He stepped closer, brushing off sand. It looked like a beacon, a transmitter, a signal that could reach the stars. Lyra watched him carefully, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. She pointed at the machine, then to the sky, then back at him. Her meaning was clear. If he fixed this, someone would hear them, but who? Her people or his? And which would arrive first? Michael knelt, pulling open panels with careful hands. Inside, the circuits glowed faintly. The power source was weak but not dead. He could fix this. He knew it. Lyra crouched beside him, handing him strange tools. From her pack, they worked together, their movements clumsy but determined. For the first time, Michael felt something different. Not just survival, but purpose. Hours passed. The sun's dipping lower. The beacon hummed, light spreading faintly from its core. Michael smiled for the first time in days. It was working, but Lyra's expression stayed hard. She spoke quickly, her voice tense. She pointed to the horizon. Storm clouds gathered again. But this time, the ground shook with the sky. Michael froze. The trembling grew stronger. From the distance came a roar, deeper than before. It was not the predators, it was something older. Something larger. The ground split open, cracks racing across the sand from below. Pillars of black stone rose, glowing with the same light as the spire. The ruins shook. The beacon shaking in Michael's hands. Lyra pulled him back, her eyes wide with fear. She spoke one word clearly. Even in her language, he understood it. Awakening, Michael's chest tightened. The beacon was not only a signal, it was a key, and now, something buried was answering it. From the cracks, massive shapes emerged, not beasts of flesh, but machines, tall, armored. Their eyes glowing with cold fire. They rose from the earth like guardians of the spire. Michael's mouth went dry. These were not predators. These were soldiers, and they were ancient. Lyra raised her weapon, blue light sparking at its tip. Michael grabbed a broken panel, rewiring it into a crude pulse charge. The machines stepped closer, their heavy feet shaking the ruins. The beacon hummed louder, light spreading higher into the sky. Michael shouted, though she could not understand. The words, "We need to finish this." Lyra's eyes burned with the same fire. They fought side by side. Michael's device exploded near the feet of one machine. Knocking it back, Lyra's weapon fired, piercing another's chest. But more kept coming. Dozens rising from the cracks. Their voices a chorus of cold metal. Michael's hands worked furiously, pulling wires. Sparking the beacon fully alive, Lyra guarded him, her movements swift. Her body bleeding but unyielding, the beacon roared to life. A pillar of white light shot into the sky, tearing through the storm clouds. The sound was deafening, the ground trembling like a heartbeat. Michael shielded his eyes, his body shaking. Lyra stood tall beside him, staring into the light. Her face unreadable. Was it hope or fear? The machines froze, their bodies locked in place as if obeying the beacon's call. The ruins went silent. Only the hum of the beacon filled the air. Michael collapsed to his knees, his breath ragged. He had done it. The signal was out there. Racing across the stars, someone would hear. Someone would come. Lyra knelt beside him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder, her eyes soft for the first time, but her lips pressed tight. She knew what he did not. Help would come, yes, but so would war. Above them, the black spire glowed brighter than ever, and deep in the distance, something roared in answer to the beacon. Not human, not alien, something far older and far more dangerous. The last hope had been lit, but it might also be the last curse. The beacon's light tore through the sky, stretching higher than the eye could see. Its roar echoed across the land, shaking mountains and forests. Michael stood weakly, staring at the pillar of white fire that he had awakened. His heart raced, his chest heavy. The signal was out there now. Someone would hear. But not all who listened would be friends. Lyra stood beside him, her silver skin glowing in the strange light. Her weapon hummed faintly, its energy core sparking. Her eyes stayed locked on the horizon. Unblinking, she knew what was coming. She had always known. This beacon was not only hope, it was also a call to war. The ground trembled again, louder, deeper. From the cracks of the ruins, the ancient machines stirred, their bodies shifted. Their glowing eyes turned toward the beacon. Dozens, then hundreds, tall as towers, armored in black stone. Their voices rose in a low mechanical hum, like a chant. From the dead, Michael's hands shook, but he forced himself to stand. Ha! He had no more devices left, no weapons stronger than scrap, but he could not give up. Not now, not after everything. Lyra looked at him, her face sharp and unreadable. Then she spoke one word in broken English. Together, Michael nodded. Together, yes, the machines advanced. Their footsteps shaking the ruins. Michael grabbed A shard of metal gripping it tight, Lyra lifted her weapon. Blue light glowing weakly at its tip. The first machine charged, faster than he expected. Michael dove aside, swinging the shard across its leg. Sparks flew, but the creature did not fall. It turned, raising its claw to strike. Before it could, Lyra fired. The blast punching a hole through its chest. The machine collapsed, smoke rising from the wound. But more came, dozens rushing through the cracks, their eyes burning. Michael's chest ached, his lungs on fire. He could not fight them all. No. One could, and yet he fought, swinging, striking, building small traps from broken wires. Every moment was borrowed time, every breath a victory. Lyra moved like a storm, her strikes precise, her body bleeding but unyielding. She fought not for herself, but for both of them. Her eyes burned with something stronger than survival, a will to protect, to stand until the last breath. The beacon's light grew brighter. It pulsed with energy, shaking the ground. Michael looked up, his eyes wide. The light was changing. It was not just a signal anymore. It was a weapon. The air buzzed with power. Sparks dancing across the ruins. The machines paused, their voices rising in confusion. They turned, not to Michael or Lyra, but to the beacon itself. Michael's mind raced. If the beacon was a weapon, then maybe, just maybe, it could destroy them. He turned to Lyra, shouting, "We need to feed it power." She did not understand the words, but she saw his hands. She saw his desperation, and she nodded. Michael pulled the broken power cells from his pack. He shoved them into the beacon's core. Sparks flying wildly. Lyra ripped the glowing crystal from her own weapon and thrust it into the machine. The beacon screamed, its light flaring brighter than ever. The machines froze, their bodies trembling. The ground split wider. The sky itself seemed to tear. Michael shielded his face, heat burning. His skin, Lyra stood tall, her body outlined in white light. The machines roared in unison. Then the beacon released its power. A wave of pure energy burst outward. It tore through the ruins, across the valley, through the mountains. The machines shattered like glass, their bodies exploding in fire and smoke. The ground split open, swallowing their remains. The forest burned with white flame. The black spire cracked, its surface glowing. Then breaking apart, the sky shook, thunder rolling like the voice of gods. Michael fell to his knees, his body trembling, his vision blurred, his ears ringing. The world was silent now. Silent except for the hum of the beacon. Its light flickered, weaker, but it was still alive, still reaching into the stars. Lyra collapsed beside him, her breathing heavy. Blood ran from her wounds, glowing faint blue in the fading light. Michael grabbed her hand, his voice raw. "Stay with me." Her dark eyes met his. She whispered his name, broken but clear. Michael, for the first time. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Above them, the clouds parted. Stars filled the sky, endless and cold. And somewhere out there, someone had seen the light. Someone was coming. But who? Rescue or death, hope or war. Michael held Lyra close, staring at the sky, his heart heavy but unbroken. The crash had brought them here. The world had tried to kill them. The machines had risen to destroy them. But they had stood together, human and alien, strangers turned allies, and maybe more. The beacon flickered one last time, then its lights stretched higher, brighter, burning across the stars. Michael whispered to himself, his voice steady on this alien world. Survival was only the beginning.